Welcome to the AtlantECO Podcast, where we talk about the science behind the AtlantECO project, the Atlantic Ocean, and the human adventures experienced along the way. Here, we have conversations with guests from around the world who work together so that we can better understand, manage, and protect the ocean. So let's embark on the journey of AtlantECO and discover the world that lies above and beneath the surface of the beautiful Atlantic Ocean. Welcome back to the podcast. In today's episode, we are reaching the end of our series in which we have discovered the regions of the Atlantic as lived by those who embarked on the Tara schooner during the Mission Microbiomes of the Tara Ocean Foundation and one of AtlantECO's flagship expeditions. Our guest today is Leïla Meistertzheim, who is Chief Scientist on Tara for the last topic study of the expedition in Senegal. And in our conversation, she will talk about the Casamance River and what was studied there. But first, let's introduce our guest. Leïla, hello and welcome to the AtlantECO Podcast. It is a pleasure to speak with you today.
Hi, thank you. It's a pleasure also.
So in the podcast, you might not know, but we like to start by understanding a little bit more about our guest. So can you tell us about your connection with the ocean? What started it for you? And maybe also tell us about your journey, which has led you to where you are today and doing what you do.
Okay, so since my childhood, I wanted to become a researcher. And as a teenager, I loved the sea. So this is the reason maybe why I mix both. And I studied biology during several years at the University of Western Brittany in France. And I became a doctor in marine biology in 2008. And after that, I was also a contract researcher in different universities. And I finished to work in the Banyuls-sur-Mer observatory with a particular expertise in toxicology and microbiology. And since 2016, my activities have focused directly on the effects of plastics on the marine ecosystems. And in 2018, I founded the company AtlantECO with Jean-François Guéguillon to offer alternatives to plastic of petrochemical origin. And so we try to understand the biodegradability, the toxicity of plastics in the natural environment. And working with the Tara Ocean Expedition, we try to understand the flow of plastic from the lands to the sea, so the origin of this plastic contamination. And we also try to understand the impact of this contaminant in the biodiversity and in particular in the marine biodiversity.
So that's a good transition into our topic today. So as mentioned at the beginning, we're talking about the very last topic study of the Mission Microbiomes. And as a reminder to our listeners, for each leg or portion of the expedition, the science team have designed some specific research questions that they wanted to get answers for through the sampling done on board of Tara. So Leïla, you went on board of Tara as it was in Senegal, and you have conducted experiments on the Casamance River. Can you tell us what you were studying there and why it is important to study it in that specific region?
So the Casamance River is a very particular river just because in this part of the world you have the enter of the seawater from the ocean directly into the land. So in this river, the goal was really to have the best overview of all the plastic pollution at salinity 0 to the normal salinity of the seawater. So it was a particular environment also because it's a mangrove environment. So it's a hotspot of biodiversity. And on this river, you have also different type of human activities for sure that can have an impact directly on this environment. And for the person that are living in this river, when you give something to the sea will keep it. But because of the plastic pollution that we understand now, we know that it's not true and that we have to change this point of view. And to do this, we need to increase our knowing in the exact number of the plastic pollution in the river. So the goal was to have an idea of the different type of plastic we can find on this river. And also we try to understand the fragmentation of this plastic, linked in particular to the action of the UV, because in this part of the world you have a particular high level of UV and also an high quantity of hydrometry in the air directly that will have an action directly into degradation of the plastics.
So an interesting topic to study there, and very important to get better understanding, but also to share back that knowledge with the local people so that they understand their impact with plastic, not only in the river, but further down in the sea as well. And can you explain how this was studied? So we understand that it's really crucial to have that better knowledge of what happens with the plastic. So can you tell us how this study and what you've done out there will help us to understand the ocean, its health, and how it will evolve over time?
So first of all, the goal was to increase our data directly on the flow of plastics from the land to the sea. So the goal was really to trace the origin of the plastic pollution of the ocean. So we sampled different type of plastic in this river, and we compare the sample corresponding to plastic pollution to the normal one, so to the phytoplankton, for example. So we used Montanet. We used also a different type of filter to increase the quantity of DNA, for example, because what is really interesting is to understand the fragmentation and the degradation of this plastic in the river, but also to understand its impact on these microorganisms that are living on the river and on sea. So to understand that, we try to increase their number using a system of filtering. After, the goal is to realize a DNA extraction and to identify the microorganism living in the surrounding environment and also living directly on the plastics, which is called the plastisphere. So this is really particular microorganisms that love the plastic and that colonize directly this new niche, because this is a new support for them. It's a vector of transport. And we have also to understand if these microorganisms can sometimes biodegrade the surface of this plastic, or if it is also some particular organisms which could become a pathogen for the other species, or if it is also exotic species that can at the end produce a bioinvasion, for example. So it's a new environment because these plastics are like a vector of transport for everywhere. They are everywhere. The first step was to try to, first of all, quantify these plastics to understand after their degradation from the land to the sea, and after to try to identify their impact directly on this microorganism, and if there is also a feedback effect, so the effect of the plastic on microorganisms and the effect of microorganisms on the plastics. So it was really interesting because we implement all these studies with the different researchers that are involved in the polymer. So it's chemical analysis, it's also physical analysis. And after we combine this with microbiology. So it was really interesting, and different researchers that are also living in this Casamance River were also involved directly in this topic.
A quick question therefore on studying or sampling on the river. Were you able to actually go on the river with the Tara, or did you have to use smaller boats?
Yes, it was a small problem. So, in fact, because the Casamance River, it's an important river, it was easy to enter directly in this river. So it was easy to enter in the estuary. We are very close to the biggest town in this river. But at the end, no, it was not possible to finish the last sampling using the Tara boat. So to do this, we were directly by the car. So we rent a car and we transport everything for the sampling directly on the car. But the road was not so good. So it was a little complicated. And at the end, we asked directly to one person who was the chief of the area if it was possible to enter directly on his river, because it was is river.
Yeah.
So this is what we have done, and we ask help, and we obtain the help of all the persons that were living in this small place. It was really nice, and they were really interested by what we were doing there and what was the question.
Yeah.
So it was a very nice interaction between us and them. It was really interesting, and they told us at the end, so maybe can you just come back and give us your answer. How many plastic do we have in this river? And
Wow.
if you see there was an impact on this microplastic on the fish, because this is at the beginning of their consumption. So it's really important for them to understand how the environment is changing, and if their use are at the beginning of the explanation of this change.
Yeah, so that's really good feedback. And I hope you will be able to go back with at least some answers at some point. Nice, interesting encounter that wasn't planned, I guess. When you got there, you didn't know that you would end up in a car with all the equipment. But that's how it is, you have to be flexible and adapt. So each of the scientific studies of the expedition is dedicated to a woman who is involved or was involved with the ocean. And in this case, it was dedicated to Tracy Edwards. Now, she's not a scientist, but someone that has played a very important role in the sailing world. So could you tell us a little bit about her and her contributions to supporting the place of women in the sailing world?
Yeah, so she is a very extraordinary woman, because when she was young, she became a first lieutenant. So it was very something important for her. And 30 years ago, she created the first crew with only women. And with the boat Maiden, she realized the ocean race. So she didn't win this race, but during several steps, they were the first of her steps. And in one step in particular, because she tried to do something very particular, to give the best view of women in sailing, all of them come and enter in the port only wearing a swimming costume. So they were not the winner of this race, but they tried to do something just to show that for women, it's possible to enter and to be involved in the sailing all over the ocean. So it was something nice. And she written 2 books after that. And her story was also used in a movie. It's a really good movie just because they use historical picture, and also they explain why it was so difficult for the woman 3 decades ago. So it was not so far away, but for me it was a person that just tried to make a sailing for women.
Yeah, so she made a big impact, I guess, in the sailing world, and is a role model probably for a lot of women who are involved in sailing nowadays. So yeah, we'll put the links to the books and the film in the show notes so people can have a look at it. So going back to your own experience on board of the sailing boat, to finish our conversation today, I'd like to know what it was like for you. I mean, not only on the boat, but also in the car, I guess. What memories have you brought back from that region and from the people you shared the adventure with?
So for us, it was a very beautiful river, with all this mangrove environment. And we found not so much plastic in the beginning of the river, but where we tried to sample the plastic on the riverbank, for example, close to a small population, we found a lot of plastics linked directly to single use. It was for us very awful because they tried to remove them directly from the riverbank, and they tried to push them on the sea because for them, the sea will keep everything. It was the story before, but now it's for sure not at all possible because the plastic will stay in this environment and have a total impact on their own life, because this plastic creates also a chemical contamination close to the sea. And for these reasons, they need to protect themselves from this chemical that actually is there. So it was very very interesting to discuss with them because they understand that they have a problem and they try to find solution. But it's not so easy to find solution in this part of the world. And the person and the researcher that were local researcher that share with us this experience were totally involved in this topic because for them we need and we try to do something. But it's also a problem of law and of use. So it's really complicated to find the best solution for them. And it was a very tricky discussion to try to find something to do now. And because at this step, they need more. It's not just the information and the data that request, it was more the solutions. And what are the solutions now? And it was really what now they would love to obtain.
And how about your experience on board of Tara?
I love Tara. So for me, it's always a nice thing. And the crew was so nice with us. It was an exchange. It's always like that. We are working close to them and they try to help us. And we are working together. So it's only the team, only one. The goal is to make everything that could be done in a few parts of time because we have not a lot of time to do this. And we try to increase the sampling to be sure at the end that we observe everything and that at the end we can answer to the question, what is the impact of plastic on the microorganism? What is the impact of microorganism on the plastics? And to do these things, as you know, we need to work normally in a sterile environment because we are microbiologists and it's not so easy to do this.
Yeah, I think this is a message that we've heard from everybody that has been on board of Tara. It's like a single family, everybody working together towards the same goal, everybody helping each other out in their daily tasks. Yeah, so it shows the passion that is shared by the people that are on board of that boat, for sure.
And it's a lot of work also.
Long days, yeah. Well, Leïla, I have to thank you for taking the time today to talk to us about your experience and for sharing all that information with us. Really interesting. I hope that us as AtlantECO will be able to bring some answers back to the people that really want to hear them. We'll put some information about Tracy in the show notes. I want to go and see that film and read those books now. So thank you for your time and maybe we'll hear from you soon with some results.
Thank you so much.
We hope that you've enjoyed today's episode and look forward to seeing you next time. You can follow the AtlantECO project on our website on www.atlanteco.eu, and you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. All the links and information on the project and on today's episode is in the show notes. AtlantECO is a project funded under Horizon 2020, a European Union research and innovation programme.